Welcome back, folks. Welcome again to a new edition of The Story Behind the Story. I'm your humble co-host, Alex Studer, coming to you from atop a hill overlooking the beautiful Pacific coast from a mountaintop in San Francisco with the Golden Gate Bridge in the background. It's a gorgeous sight to behold, folks. I hope you're having a good evening on this Friday, May 26th of 2017. This is a brand new show, folks. I haven't seen you on the air in about 3 weeks, I think. We had to run a rerun in a previous session. True is still out of reach, and so here I am, and it's a good thing because I wanted to bring this at an earlier time, and it's, issues conflicting and work and so forth. Haven't been able to do it, but I really, really, really want to spend some time focusing in on this whole Seth Rich issue, folks. So we're going to try and give it some time tonight, and we're going to bring on to the air our loyal friend and reporter in the field, coming to us from the depths of the African Congo rainforest jungles there. Major James Burdock is with us yet again tonight. Major James, are you there?
Yes, I am, sir. How are you?
It's a pleasure to hear your voice, sir. I understand that you're really out in the field, and hopefully the monkeys are being nicer to you tonight than they have been.
They've been actually quite friendly. I've been mating with them.
Splendid. Well, hopefully you'll tell us all about that. We're looking forward to hearing about it. I'm going to go ahead and proceed with my usual business, and then we'll bring Major James Burdock back on, and we'll talk about some stuff, folks. It's going to be quite a ring humdinger of a show, and you probably want to set your recorders to this because you won't be hearing stuff like this on your average television station or anything you dial up on your FM dial, folks. This is really uncensored freedom of speech radio, and it's supported by your dollars, folks. The only reason that I'm here on the air now is because a generous listener like you donated previously. This entire show and the network is funded only with donations, so yours go a long way. A great way for you to get a good bang for the buck is to not only make a donation but also subscribe to the archives, because not all of us can be in front of the speakers when we want to hear our favorite show when it's on at the moment it's happening. And if you forgot to set the recorder, well, gosh darn, you missed the show. Well, not anymore. You can get those archives for a single monthly subscription payment. It's not a heck of a lot, and your money goes well spent to supporting all of us on these airwaves, trying to do good and in preserving what we have left of the First Amendment. And that being said, I just want to be sure that everyone knows that neither True, the host of this show and the founder of this Story Behind the Story, nor I, just a humble, willing volunteer, have any financial gain at all in this venture. In fact, this costs us a lot to do. So please be aware of that, folks. We're not in any way financially benefiting from any of this. This is a knowing expense and a burden, and we still do it. So aren't you the lucky ones? Right. So back to our usual business. That being said, the humble honor that I get to have is being in the shadow of the guy who founded this show. His name is Dr. A. Truott, PhD. His website is www.atrueott.com. And he's on vacation right now, and so I'm doing the show like I have been in his stead when he can't do it for a couple years now. My attempt to record things as they happen is it's called labvirus.com, and it's like it sounds, www.labvirus.com. And Don't shoot the messenger. Do your homework. That's all I have to say to people. That's really just my main message is, don't listen to me. Don't listen to anyone. Do your own homework. Draw your own conclusions. And, maybe one of us can be the wiser for the wear. Um, Lots of events have occurred recently, folks, and we're going to be talking about them all tonight. This is going to be a 2-hour show separated by a small 5 or so minute break. In the second hour, we will be taking callers. So anyone who wishes to call in on the second hour can do so by dialing the number 310-421-4053, or also by using Skype and going to the screen name there, Freedom Screen 2, all one word, lowercase, Freedom Screen and the number 2. Okay. So yeah, in the second hour, feel free to join us, one and all, and we'll have a nice little hoedown, and there will be much rejoicing. Where to begin? I think I shall start with just the latest news and the puppeteering of our chief emperor in charge, taking his trip and going around to NATO and pointing his finger and telling them they're all bad people, and basically threatening them all to step in line or else they won't be part of his cool party, because he's only making VIP passes for the ones that um, now, I've long suggested, folks, that no, people ask me, well, is he the Antichrist? We thought Obama was the Antichrist, and, everybody pointing their fingers, wondering who's the Antichrist. Well, I'm not sure yet, but I can tell you, I don't ever think for a minute that Trump is the Antichrist. I believe more he is the one who opens the door for the Antichrist. I believe right now his whole trip has been to sort of parade about and congratulate himself and pat everyone on the shoulder and say, yes, it's ready. The stage is set. I'm ready to bring him onto the stage. In other words, he's sort of like the MC who introduces our main speaker. And prove me wrong, anyone. I really, throw that up for debate, but that's where I'm standing on that. Being a Christian, yes, folks, I am a King James Bible loving Christian, and I strive for authenticity in Scripture, and I totally rebuke those who throw false doctrine at me, and I have no time for anyone suggesting otherwise. But that's my point of view, and I'm certainly open to listening to others, as this show is all about finding truth. So the Seth Rich murder is something I want to talk about, and also I want to talk us through these latest current events, this Manchester business. And folks, anyone who knows me knows that I smell a rat from the beginning. And I've already deduced this is yet another of those staged, Hollywood produced hoaxes involving crisis actors in which nobody was hurt. They've already thrown up some of the very same faces that we've recognized from so many of the other events. The same actors are showing up yet again. And pictures of the dead victims are turning out to be pictures of 2012 murder victims and another girl who's alive and well in Australia and never left the country. So, do your homework, folks. Don't believe the television. It's all just wag the dog on steroids. And anyone who has not seen the film Wag the Dog, well, shame on you. And, stop listening to the show. Go watch that film and come back to the recorded show, by all means. Gosh, and just sort of interjecting before we go back to tasks at hand and Major James Burdock, I want to get to the vaccination thing just quickly because Italy has mandated vaccinations for all of its children, apparently. And so this is not going over very well. Meanwhile, Sweden has done the opposite. So there's some issues there. We're going to get into that on a later show. Um, all right, so now kind of diving into, I'm just going to start. I'm going to review Manchester by repeating the website of Jim Fetzer, which is moonrockbooks.com for anyone who hasn't been there. www.moonrockbooks.com. He wrote several books on these staged false flag hoaxes, and they're very well put together. One, Nobody Died at Sandy Hook, which I call Sandy Hoax. Another called No One Died in Boston Either. Another, and I suppose we never went to the moon. And more recently, Orlando to Dallas and Beyond. Well, I can only imagine that Jim Fetzer right now is investigating this Manchester business and putting together for what will obviously be yet another in the series, because that's to me exactly what this is. And hopefully Major James will have some insights there. Now, kind of delving into this Seth Rich issue, I just want to preface what I'm going to start with by noticing that Hannity on Fox News was beginning to sort of cover this a little, and all of a sudden kind of backed away from covering it. In doing so, apologizing to his audience and then promising to revisit it at a later date, but in a veiled kind of way, kind of hinting like, okay, Fox is kind of telling me to stand down on this issue. So that is kind of interesting. Now, I'm going to start from square one on this Seth Rich issue, folks. And Major James, you are now welcome to be part of this show at any moment that you feel. I'm just going to begin by reading the Wikipedia page on what used to be just Seth Rich, but now it has been changed. It has been requested that the title of this article be changed to Murder of Seth Rich, Conspiracy Theory.
Just jumping in really quickly before we do this.
Number
one, we just ran a story about how Seth Rich, his unknown Reddit posts and his Reddit accounts and his social media accounts that were previously anonymous, that now, thanks to the great folks over at 8chan, disclosed to the world, are being edited today. They are being edited as we speak. So we can't expect the same type of integrity with Wikipedia at the moment.
Oh, no, and I'm not expecting to find any. And I'm very well aware that these Reddit posts of his are being sort of, how we say, Mandela affected. So I'm just kind of, starting for the noob who doesn't even know who, because I'm telling you, I go out in the field and I talk about like Seth Rich, and people look at me, they give me that blank stare like, are you from another planet? What? They don't know who Seth Rich is at all.
And again, I just got to interject one more thing, because you asked me. I believe Donald Trump is the Antichrist, and with that, let's leave it there. I'll let you go. I'll let you go on that.
Very well said. So anyway, here we are. The murder of Seth Rich, as it's listed in Wikipedia, reads: Seth Conrad Rich, born January 3rd, 1989, died July 10th, 2016, was a 27-year-old Democratic National Committee employee who was fatally shot in Bloomingdale, Washington, D.C. The D.C. Metropolitan Police are investigating. Now, I'm just going to stop there, because that's really the important thing, is that we learn the dates of this guy, and then he worked for the DNC. Now, any listeners to this show will be familiar with the WikiLeaks release of information, which ultimately led to investigation of what we now call Pizzagate. And this involved emails from Wiener's laptop and Podesta's account, which were very lightly guarded with the password that was literally password. And all this investigation is now into James Alefantis and this museum that he's building, which others have turned to claim is the kill room, quote unquote, for this uncovering this incredibly nasty, well organized, state sponsored, high level elite pedophilia, child trafficking, and even further, really ritual satanic abuse ring of behavior. Um, so um, it is very easy to see that it's very likely that Seth Rich was the source of these emails, and without saying it, even Julian Assange has more or less confirmed that it pretty much was him. But out of his policies, he's never ever going to out an actual source, while others may also do continue to do so. I mean, that's pretty much his stance. But others are pretty much in alignment that yeah, this is where those came from. We also have a guy showing up, Kim.com, who appears to be he says that he alleges that he was personally involved. And his statement is, I know that Seth Rich was involved in the DNC leak. I know this because in late 2014, a person contacted me about helping to start a branch of the Internet Party in the United States. He called himself Panda. I now know that Panda was Seth Rich. Panda advised me that he was working on voter analytics tools and other technologies that the Internet Party may find helpful. I communicated with Panda on a number of topics, including corruption and the influence of corporate money in politics. I was referring to what I knew when I did an interview with Bloomberg in New Zealand in May 2015. In that interview, I hinted that Julian Assange and WikiLeaks would release information about Hillary Clinton in the upcoming election. The Rich family has reached out to me to ask that I be sensitive to their loss in my public comments. The request is entirely reasonable. I've consulted with my lawyers. I accept that my full statement should be provided to the authorities, and I'm prepared to do so that there can be a full investigation. My lawyers will speak with the authorities regarding the proper process. If my evidence is required to be given in the United States, I'd be prepared to do so if appropriate arrangements are made. I would need a guarantee from Special Counsel Mueller on behalf of the United States on safe passage from New Zealand to the U.S. and back. In the coming days, we'll be communicating with the appropriate authorities to make the necessary arrangements. In the meantime, I will make no further comment. So that came from Kim.com. Meanwhile, it turns out that these two Mexican people end up dead the very day after Seth Rich was killed in Myrtle Beach, but it's hardly reported upon. And I'll just read the story. It's in the Myrtle Beach Online. It's by Christian Baucholt from the Sun News. Two murder victims found shot to death in Society Plaza on Monday morning have been identified. Rafael Horry County Deputy Coroner Darius Fowler said. Both lived in the Myrtle Beach area. The double homicide in the parking lot of Socasti Plaza in front of El Llamarito on SC 707 happened just a little over a month after a 65-year-old woman was found dead in the same area. They were found dead at around 7 a.m. Monday, according to Lieutenant Raul Dennis with the Horry County Police. So it's hypothesized, and I'm just going to state, someone's post here. I'm just going to quote this without, these are anonymous sources, but The Mexican was a Clinton staffer murdered in July in a double homicide. A tip was dropped on Twitter. They may perhaps be Seth's would-be killers, but Seth obviously survived the attack, died later in the hospital. And folks, we have testimony from some of an ER staff who was apparently there and alleges that when he came in, he had non-life-threatening wounds, that he was fully expected to survive. But once he was admitted, the staff shift was changed. Everything was locked down. A ton of police arrived. And 8 hours after he arrived, he was now dead. Go figure. So it appears two people, one of whom worked for Hillary Clinton, get murdered in a double homicide just 7 hours from D.C., where Seth was killed just one day after Seth was killed. You mean to tell me a woman was a presidential candidate and her staffer was killed in a double homicide and this wasn't national news? The theory is these were the hired hitmen to kill Seth. They did a sloppy job, which is why Seth didn't die until he got to the hospital. Then Hillary Rodham Clinton or the DNC had them both whacked to keep them quiet. Major James, what do you think about that?
I think that's a very good analysis. I think that I don't want to skip too far forward because I know we're going through the timeline here. It's very important for people
I haven't
to
even
understand.
begun to read, which I do have in front of me, and I hope we can go to.
So what I would place in the context of everything while you're going back through the timeline is the fact that this guy's laptop, nobody knows where it is. Nobody knows where it is. The FBI says that the Washington, D.C. police have it. D.C. Metro has it. And now we've got D.C. Metro saying the FBI has it. I mean, what is the problem with these missing laptops? And doesn't that kind of put an MO on... This is a murder, folks. Doesn't that put an MO on the murder? Missing laptops. Who would you think of? That's about what I have to say, and I didn't mean to skip too far ahead, but
No. Perfect timing. Thank you. So yes, certainly there is now the timeline of events, and I'm just going to read from a recent post of something that has been shared, entitled "The Updated Seth Rich Timeline." And it says, again, adding August 2014 as the date Seth Rich began working for the DNC. So in the year 2008, I Will Vote website is created. In the year 2009, Ian Reynolds becomes the senior system administrator to the DNC. In 2010, Ian Reynolds is no longer senior systems administrator. He goes to the Peace Corps from March 2011 to May 2013. In 2011, Seth Rich graduates from a Jesuit college. Presumably, he gets involved with the DNC during college. After graduating in 2011, Rich was quickly hired by a national polling company and moved to the district. 2 years later, in 2013, he went to the DNC, where he worked on the development of a computer program that allows people to enter their names and have maps drawn to their polling places. Rich moved from First Street 2 years ago in 2014. 2013 to present, Ian Reynolds is working as director of engineering at IT consulting firm in D.C. All of this from But see also that Ian Reynolds is in the thick of things. See this article by Charles Smith of Software. December 18th. Wait a minute. Okay, I'm going ahead of myself. August 2014, Seth Rich begins working for the DNC. December 18th, 2015, on or about this date, Bernie campaign accesses HRC campaign data stored on servers controlled by DNC due to a glitch. May 3rd, 2015, Bernie pulls off the surprise primary victory in Indiana primary. May 17, 2016, Bernie wins the Oregon primary. Final Democrat primaries, including California, would be in June. Stuck forking Sanders because he was done by mid-June. May 25, 2016, date of the last email in the DNC email archive released by WikiLeaks. It's a key date. Where was Seth Rich on this date? What was his state of mind? Did something happen on or about May 25th, 2016 that resulted in Seth Rich losing access to high-level DNC emails? Or did he get one-time access to the DNC emails on May 25th, 2016 and downloaded all of them? June 12, 2016, Bernie Sanders endorsed Clinton in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. July 10, 2016, Seth Rich is killed. And I'm going to interject right here. July 11th, 2016, those two Mexicans that we just talked about were killed in Myrtle Beach. July 11, 2016, the lawsuit regarding voter fraud in which Seth Rich is scheduled to be witness is filed. July 22, 2016, WikiLeaks publishes 19,252 emails and 8,034 attachments from the DNC, including emails from 7 key DNC staff members. The leaked DNC emails have a date range of January 2015 to May 25, 2016, a key date range. Major James Burdock, your comments.
I mean, my lord, you really don't have to have a political party to understand that somebody had a reason to kill this guy, namely Hillary Clinton.
It kind of looks that way, doesn't it?
It's like kind of is an auxiliary word that you're using. Just why don't we just kick that to the shoulder? My lord, what is happening with when it first happened? And I just remember this distinctly. All the channel networks exploded, and of course you're going to get theories, and you're going to get all. But when everything was distilled within about 48 hours, you knew something was going on. You absolutely. I went in. I got the address. I mean, I looked down. I talked to my brother, who is familiar with Washington, and asked him, "Hey, what is this neighborhood like? Is there crime? When's the last time there's been a homicide like this in that neighborhood?" So you start adding up all of the highly improbable events that took place up until this guy got killed. And my lord, I mean, the fact that this was a random killing is almost impossible. That's my opinion.
And I don't disagree, of course. You know that. And we're doing our best to bring our listenership up to speed with where we have our current understanding in this investigation, folks. And remember, folks, again, this is listener-supported radio, and without your donation dollars, we don't have a conversation. Right now, we're listening to Major James Burdock reporting from the field, and he's literally out in the African Congo jungles fighting off monkeys who are right now being friendly with him. He's somehow managed to assimilate into their culture. But this is not easy, and it's not free for us either, folks. So please, your donation dollars help to keep this on the air, and don't be afraid to subscribe to those archives. So, Major James Burdock, you're familiar with the Goldwater. It's a relatively new news source. Why don't you say a few words about the Goldwater for us? Since
I am familiar. I'm the editor. I was just hired to be the editor of the Goldwater, which is the very, very first news site anywhere that is directly affiliated with a channel network, meaning that we get our sources from from the people. This is citizen journalism, as well as what a ton of people on the network are talking about and what they want to know. So it is, by definition, a grassroots news network. So we have a studio in Manila, and we're happy to have just incredible people working to keep this alive. And like Revolution Radio, well, unlike Revolution Radio, we're not yet taking donations, but it's being funded by people who really, really care about news like this getting out.
It is being sort of crowd funded, though, in a way, right?
No, not at all.
Okay. Well, my hat's off to you and all the people at the Goldwater for doing what you do, and you certainly have my unending support. There's also a show, isn't there?
Yeah, we do have a live streaming show that folks can call in and talk to the Goldwater girls and me and pretty much anyone who is in the studio at the time to answer any questions about what we're doing and how we're reporting the news, the angle that we're taking, because it's quite unique. It's a consumer based. Okay, we're responding to a demand in truth, and we want to know what people want us to report about, and we will. And we've got a huge team, very, very incredible, extremely way beyond. I mean, some of our development guys are way beyond anything that I've ever seen, and I've been working in IT hosting for 20 some years. So it's a unique opportunity to have the news involved with it, which is something that I've always been interested in, and it affects us all. So we're just taking a bow right now, and you can definitely see us. We're going to be an incredibly strong news source for people who demand the truth instantly.
And I'm happy to be promoting that and helping you in any way I can. You've been a longtime friend of mine on a personal level, and I have the most unending faith in your abilities, and I have always supported your causes. So you definitely count on me from that level.
Tipping my hat to you, partner. That's great. Thank you.
And folks, I don't know what to say about these channel networks. They're the rabbit hole like you never thought possible, folks. So if you're gonna dive into these channel networks, you really need to learn a few things first. First of all, it's ugly. It is rife with everything that you thought people would never say ever in a million years, but it's all happening on these boards. So you have to understand that it's likely to offend just about anyone who visits these boards. And I kind of look at it like this way: if you're not upset, you're not paying attention. And I think that's a good thing to keep in mind when you approach these channel network boards, because again, this is why they exist, and this is why we exist as Revolution Radio. This is freedom of speech, but this is a sort of sharing network of actual information that is freedom of speech on steroids, folks. So this is in fact why all of the mainstream news media are so up in arms right now, calling everything they can't control fake news, because of stuff like this right here is where it's happening. It's the cutting edge of the actual investigation and process, folks. Because of the anonymity of the contributors, it allows for complete unabated discourse and full debate and hashing out of everything in the most extreme level. And because of its extreme participation and the high quality of its top end contributors, the feedback and the content it's indescribable, folks. I really have to commend the organizers and the people involved, because you got a good thing going here, and in my humble opinion, it is the coolest thing on the internet, period. And I think it's the best chance we have. This is our Jedi lightsaber. This is what we got. This is it, against what's coming, and it ain't going to be pretty. But I think this is where it all happens, is developing the sword of truth. And I think this is your ironsmiths. This is where it's all being heated up and put on the fire, and hammers are banging, and lathes are turning, and this is where it's all grinding in the process of developing that sword of truth. So that being said, the whole reason, in my humble opinion, everyone's so butthurt about this Seth Rich investigation is because it exposes Pizzagate. Let's not forget that part of it, folks. That's probably why they had to whack him.
It's a bullet in the gun.
Yeah, man. So let's talk about Pizzagate for a second and realize who the players are in this thing, okay? We're talking John and Tony Podesta. We're talking James Alefantis. We're talking David Brock. And that's just for starters, okay? And as far as the Podesta-Brock connection, I have a little quote here I'd like to read from someone's post. Regarding the Podesta-Brock connection, some of this is speculation, but it is no secret that David Brock was once a conservative pundit. Indeed, he turned cloaks suddenly after being assigned the writing of a memoir on Hillary Clinton. After this, he had a sudden, and some would say even uncanny, change of heart about the soon-to-be senatorial candidate, and founded Media Matters for America, a nonprofit that seems to have its design set on promoting witch hunts, defamation, and falsehoods to destroy the conservatives' political standing. A close associate of Brock's and Clinton's is John Podesta. Podesta had been known as a lobbyist in the D.C. circles for decades, well entrenched, also thanks to his mother's connections. Further, he consulted for both the Obama campaigns and had a direct hand in the attempt to elect Hillary Rodham Clinton. John and his brother Tony have already been well documented by Pizzagate sources, so I'll spare further elaboration on them. Seek the articles for yourself, draw your own conclusions. Nevertheless, the Center for American Progress and Media Matters for America have been partners for years in a number of things. They receive common funding from George Soros and other leftist shadow government funds, and these same funds might have a say in how their supported candidates govern the country. It should not be surprising to any leftist that still has at least a tenth of brain matter left then that most of Obama's promises weren't fulfilled. There wasn't change. There was division in an attempt to tighten the state's control over every aspect of the citizens' lives. There was a continued bailout on the financier class. There was crony capitalism at its finest in Obama's run in the presidency. Now, my theory is that David Brock got set up by Podesta at some point. It might have been a party. It might have been something else. But Brock got caught in a compromising position and had to switch teams or risk losing everything he'd gained at this point. With promises of rewards if he steps into line and plays on the Shabagoy team, as some would say. While circumstantial, it's certainly telling that Brock's ex-boyfriend demanded $800,000 US in exchange for not revealing some of his most embarrassing secrets. It's also telling that James Alefantis is at present building a museum and is aggressively pursuing any sources of documentation and investigation on the real estate he's developing, resorting to threats and blackmail and maybe more. It's not normal for someone who has innocuous designs on a given project to do this. For that reason, I think James Alefantis is David Brock's facilitator in perpetuating the vicious cycle plaguing DC politics for a while. As far as deep state involvement goes, as said before, the deep state agencies are aware of this. Several people who have investigated elements loosely related to these news have been persecuted or imprisoned and then found themselves to have suicided under most mysterious of circumstances. Aaron Schwartz is one such individual. Aaron Schwartz was quite interested in deep state activity. Indeed, he unveiled the persona management software scheme that the U.S. Navy had commissioned, perhaps on behalf of a shadowy agency. For those not in the know, individuals such as the online presence of Rana Alabed and her mother might be such personas. Bana Alabed, excuse me, might be such personas. Fake social media characters created to manipulate public opinion on a wide variety of matters. That includes, of course, the Syrian civil war. It's funny that a girl is asking for Hillary Clinton to be elected and for World War III instead of pleading for her life and that of her mother. It's furthermore atypical that some of the wording she uses seems to signal to varied persons throughout the development of the SCW as it occurs. The Franklin scandal was another cover-up. Initially unveiled as a scheme to get politicians to walk the line, it was further damaging as a conspiracy because of the callous way child prostitutes were used to achieve such means. It was swept under the rug and properly memory hold as soon as it surfaced. Who were they protecting? Well, the shadowy true elite. And on this note, I'm going to stop right here and remind folks that True Ott, the host of this show, is personal friends of John DeCamp, who wrote all the papers on the Franklin scandal. He published the books, and he also did the documentary, which you can find on YouTube right now. It's called Conspiracy of Silence. Returning back. As far as elites, media, and child abuse go, the true elite barters in children, organs, and every other sort of degenerate debauchery to achieve its aims. After all, the media complex perpetuates the cycles through their use and abuse of child actors and actresses, and it is an open secret that Britney Spears' sister baby has been fathered by a Nickelodeon executive. These people like to indoctrinate children with certain beliefs from the start. There's no way to stop them unless the deep state stops using these people for their own aims, or the people rebel against these abuses. Major James, your comments.
Fear and money are my comments. The deep state does not have a philosophy. They are responding to either fear or money, one of the two. They've either been caught up in some sort of I certainly believe that, the most damaging bullet that you can possibly threaten somebody with is child molestation, child rape, child abduction, child abuse. Nobody in their right mind is going to stand by you. Your friends, your family, your confidants, your attorney isn't going to stand by you if you've got that. And if you don't have that, then they'll just threaten to kill you. So that is something that the Clintons have been doing since Bill Clinton was governor of Arkansas. That is something that has been indoctrinated into the highest levels of the United States government. The fact that it's being used now is not surprising, since there are billions of dollars to fund this with, and the operation was already in place. So,
well, yeah,
the deep state does not have a philosophy. They are corrupt intelligence officials. That's my line.
Searching for my mute button here. And as we learn in this documentary, again, folks, go to YouTube and watch the documentary, Conspiracy of Silence. And there's another version that has the added John DeCamp interviews. So get the 2-hour plus version. There's several different cuts of it, but Conspiracy of Silence. Again, go to YouTube and watch Conspiracy of Silence by John DeCamp. And we learn in this film that this is regular. This is the game. This is how it's done. This is how everybody on the Hill is compromised. This is how they get you, basically.
And I totally agree with you, Alex, as far as this being completely tied with Pizzagate. Absolutely, no question. No question at all in my mind. If anyone, and you urge this on your shows over and over, do your own research. If you take a half hour, take 40 minutes to look into what Pizzagate is and how absolutely devastating that is to the democracy in general, there's no way that you cannot tie this to Pizzagate.
And even on just a personal level, to even know that this could be possible, let's forget actual facts, folks. Just imagine that this could be possible. How many of you listening are parents? How many people listening to this show have young children? Do you understand what we are talking about when we discuss this issue of Pizzagate and the deplorable levels of depravity and sick and twisted abuse that we are talking about? This is reprehensible, folks, and I'm not joking. It's real. I really wish you would do some homework and just as parents, if for no other reason. Major James.
They've gone for the unforgivable. They went to the absolute worst level that you possibly can in human behavior. I don't care what your politics are, but kidnapping, selling, raping, and killing children for the purpose of political gain.
Oh, and filming it.
Sure. I mean, that's incidental, I guess. But how, I really can't conceive of anything worse. Maybe there's something that they'll come up with later, but I can't conceive of anything worse.
Yeah, this is what makes my brain hurt the most, for sure. And there are a few things that do make my brain hurt. But this is certainly one of the most uncomfortable things to think about. And, I think about growing up here in San Francisco, and I think of a man whose name is Michael A. Aquino, who is still alive and well and is probably one of the top ranking staff at the NSA. And his history of child abuse here in the Presidio and how he beat prosecution every time because of his high security clearances. I think to myself how deeply ingrained this type of behavior is into state sponsored everything. And it just makes me sick to my stomach. Major James.
Terrible. I mean, gagging myself here. It is to use this as currency is just, it shows you how terrible a person can be. I mean, absolute power corrupting, absolutely. Well, they spent a lot of time and effort, and when they didn't win the election, they figured, okay, then we're going to blow it out. We're going to make sure that our entire nation is at risk, that the deep state, quote unquote, we're going to have the George Soroses that have billions of dollars. George Soros is, I mean, my Lord, that guy's about to die. He's got billions of dollars, and he does not care. He's on a one-way path and will spend billions of dollars to bribe security officials. And just as far as the leaks that occurred in Manchester, our own intelligence, folks, is at risk because of this man. He is undermining the security of the United States of America and the relationship that we have with the security officials worldwide in order to combat terrorism and make sure that more people don't die. But they're encouraging this. They want...
Soros's goal is a target buzzword called civil unrest, and it's he's employing as many force multipliers as he can possibly deploy at once, including Media Matters and Black Lives Matter and all these other force multipliers to incite violence in the streets. Because as soon as national emergency can be declared, they get their holy grail of full dictatorship and Bye-bye Constitution forever. And we know this. It's a race to the finish line, folks. And I'm just going to give you another example of how current this whole Pizzagate issue is. This is from today. This is today. Today's news at the New York Post. Okay. De Blasio employee arrested for child pornography. This is today. A leading young Democrat and de Blasio administration employee has a secret taste for sickening kiddie porn that involves baby girls as young as 6 months old, court papers revealed Friday. Jacob Schwartz, age 29, was busted for allegedly keeping more than 3,000 disgusting images and 89 videos on a laptop after downloading the filth from the internet. The internet smut shows young nude females between the approximate ages of 6 months and 16 engaging in sexual content. I mean, sorry, folks. You don't think it's current? It's current. He's employed as a $66,000 a year computer programmer and analyst in the City Department of Design and Construction, where he works on the Build It Back Hurricane Sandy Recovery and Resiliency Program. He's seen posing with Robbie Mook, the campaign manager for Hillary Clinton's disastrous presidential campaign. Coincidence? I don't know. What do you think?
My God. Anything's possible. These people have such erratic behavior. You've got the worst of the worst who are now the creme of the creme. That's the way the Clintons wanted it. That's the way Obama wanted it. God knows what they got on Obama. I have no idea. But don't
get me started.
all of this has to stop.
Yeah, Rahm Emanuel is involved, and boy, you know, we got a dossier on that guy. Slick Barry. Slick Barry, we call him.
Well, their worst threat is the worst threat against them, in that the minute that somebody starts turning over, if they can't kill them quick enough, they're going to turn state's evidence.
Yes.
And they will start implicating people who are higher and higher and higher. And hopefully the dominoes will fall.
So do you think maybe Hillary Rodham Clinton could possibly find herself in such a position at some point?
I think she'd probably exile herself to Qatar, which is where she's stashed over $1 billion. And they have no extradition treaties. She's a complete coward. Bill, I don't know. He's probably dead already. Who knows? I mean, nobody's seen that guy already.
That way. I mean, yeah, he looks that way for sure.
Yeah, I wonder what kind of funeral they'll have for him. My Lord. It has been an absolute disgrace, Alex.
Yes, sir, it has. And we're going to be taking a break here in a short 30 seconds. Thank you, folks, for tuning in. You're listening to The Story Behind the Story. My guest is Major James Burdock from the African Congo. Make sure you give them monkeys some bananas and have them just keep you ready for the next hour, folks. We'll be back after this short break. Don't go away. You're listening to The Story Behind the Story. I'm Alex Studer, coming from San Francisco on Friday, May 26th, 2017. We'll be right back after this short break. Thanks you. Don't go away. That's right. Music is the doctor, folks. Thanks for joining us again on the second hour of The Story Behind the Story. Today is Friday, May 26th, 2017. You're listening to The Story Behind the Story. My name is Alex Studer. I'm coming to you from San Francisco. Hope you folks are having a joyous weekend, this Memorial Day weekend. Right now, music festivals are happening all around me. There are stages lighting up in Napa at this thing they have every year this time, and I'm enjoying the solitude of not being there. I'm not really a big crowd kind of guy at this time in my life, and I'm enjoying being here with you tonight. Our special guest, Major James Burdock, is with us. Major James, are you still there?
Ja, sehr gut. Willkommen.
All right, okay. So he's calling in from the African Congo. He's fighting off monkeys, but apparently making peace with the natives. So that's a good sign. Um, we've been talking about the Seth Rich murder. We've touched a little bit on the Manchester, what I'm calling a hoax, folks. Yes, another hoax. Um, and I think, honestly, I think this Manchester business was scripted and timed in a wag the dog fashion so that we're not talking about the Seth Rich murder investigation, nor has it really turned out that way, folks. I mean, you don't really hear much about Seth Rich in the news, do you now? No, it's all Manchester, Manchester, Trump, Trump, Manchester, Manchester, Trump, Trump. Um, well, I strongly suggest people not to trust what you see on the television and do your own homework. And here to help you along with that process is my special guest, Major James Burdock. Major James, please enlighten us as to what we should be looking into.
Well, I would trust you to maybe trust what you do see on the television. For example, on Fox News, what happened to Hannity?
Well,
Sean Hannity is reported on, and this is I don't know. I'm skipping ahead on your timeline here, but here's a guy who has arguably one of the most popular news commentary shows on cable news networks, and wow, they just went through the entire process with him as if he was O'Reilly getting fired
kind of,
for
yeah.
for one news story, and it had to do with, drum roll please,
Seth
Seth
Rich.
Rich.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they
So,
they came down on him so hard for that, and he put his tail between his legs and said, "I'm sorry, I won't talk about that anymore. But trust me, folks, I'm still investigating. I just don't want to get fired."
well, you can't blame the guy. Look what happened to Bill.
Yeah, exactly. Um, but even so, there's so many things about Hannity that I still, as much as I like the fact that he's breaking the Seth Rich story at all, and certainly the vaccine issue as well. There are many things I do like about him. There are certain areas where I just see him being just forced into towing the party line because he's on Fox and he has to say things he doesn't want to say. And it hurts me to see people compromise themselves in such a way because I know that they're doing it.
Well, I met him in Arlington, Virginia in 1996, and I mean, one of the great things about Sean Hannity is that he's a very gentle lover.
I, I'm very pleased to know that. I'll file it along with the other things I did not care to know about Sean Hannity. Oh,
No, I mean,
goodness.
okay, all right. I thought I'd throw a zinger in on you there. No, the guy, the guy is being certainly bullied, and it really makes you wonder if some of the top people at Fox News haven't been caught up in Pizzagate. I mean, let's be honest about this.
Do you
How is it?
think?
How is it that those buttons can be pressed so easily that, oh, we want that guy off the air, and they're able to get O'Reilly off the air? I mean, you take a look at what happened with him. My God, that's like they were complicit in the entire deal.
For
So,
sure. For sure.
yeah, can't you get the lawyers out? Can't you fight it? Just as Donald Trump, our president, said that he was absolutely disgusted by Fox News that they didn't fight. They didn't fight this in court. And why didn't
Yeah.
they? because there was something being held over these people's heads.
Well,
So,
let's
entire
talk about
media.
that for a second. Let's talk about James Comey and why he fired James Comey, because everyone really doesn't. They want to know, but I don't think anybody really knows, and I don't think I want to know because of this. And this I just found, it was posted on Vote today, voat.co. It's in the Pizzagate section. And this is actually 2 months old, but I'm just looking at it now, and it's ringing a bell for me. Video evidence of James Comey on what we now know to be Jeffrey Epstein's pedophile island is in possession of FBI agents, according to E.T. Williams, the doctor of common sense. Now, this is a guy who's very strong and blunt in his conservative views, but he's not known for making things up. In fact, he was skeptical of Pizzagate when the story broke, saying that he didn't see enough evidence to fully convince him. In this video, he discusses in some lurid detail the alleged video evidence that his friend inside the FBI has of Comey, Epstein, Prince Andrew, Prince Charles, Harry Reid, Bill Clinton, etc., engaging in sex acts with each other and with children. E.T. Williams claims to have personally viewed a video of James Comey and Prince Charles engaging in gay sex with each other. And then there's a link to the video. Maybe his FBI friend is a liar, but I felt this had to be posted, as this guy is a prolific YouTuber, and as I said, does not have a reputation for making wild claims unless he's clearly joking. So I'm just throwing that out there. I looked into it. It seems to kind of check out. I haven't heard anything countering it. And it sort of supports what I already know about Comey and Epstein and this whole Pizzagate thing. So I'm just throwing that out there just because it was fun.
Well, Dude Man is, I think that he's actually protected himself. He's not a stupid guy. He's protected himself on both sides throughout the election because of threats. I think that he was personally threatened by the Clintons. I think that he.
Clearly, are you there? Major James, did we lose you? We might have lost Major James.
Still
We
shows
might
up.
have lost me.
Yeah, okay. We're getting.
I don't know.
All right.
Am I back? Am I on? Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, Alex. Can you hear me? Stand by.
Are we being hacked? Did our show get hacked?
Okay, I'm gonna reset the call. Let's see if we can try to pull him back in. Alex, you there? Okay, Dom, can you hear me?
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, Alex. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, we're trying to get Burdock back on the line.
Okay,
Dom,
do we have a show?
do you hear us, Dominic? I think we should be on the air.
Yeah,
I wouldn't
you're
be
on the air, guys. You're on the air.
Okay, all right, we're back, folks. Apparently, we're talking about a very touchy subject that just has to be kicked off the air right at the time that we're talking about some of the most critical parts of it. And it comes to me as no surprise that we would experience such a difficulty. And I think we all shared it at the exact same time. It's a very strange thing that would occur. We would all get booted from the show at the same time. But, considering what we're talking about and who is involved, it doesn't surprise me in the least that efforts would be made to try and stop this conversation from going forward. So Major James is still fighting off monkeys right now. Lord knows if he'll be able to return. He is reporting from us in the field in the jungle. Um, Certainly, we do fight obstacles, folks, when we talk about these very sensitive issues. We start, it's basically like taking a stick to the hive's nest, and they don't take too kindly about being exposed. And that's what this whole Pizzagate business does, is it uncovers this whole deep, dark underbelly that has been thriving for so long with absolute impunity. Um, so it should come as no surprise, folks, that more whistleblowers will be silenced. More efforts will be made to try to hush this issue and wag the dog, such as, like I said, I think even Manchester was a staged psyop to distract attention away from what is progressing as this very real Seth Rich murder investigation. And I believe we have Major James back. Major James, are you with us or no?
We had him and it dropped.
We had him and he dropped. Okay.
Yeah.
So he's coming back. We're working on that. Again, he's in the jungles of the African Congo, so it's not always the best internet from where he is. So as far as the Seth Rich investigation goes, and the two guys who were murdered the day after him, this Rafael Aguilar and Carmelo Marimejo Calixto, we very strongly believe those to be the two hired hit guns who were supposed to take him out. Having failed, a new plan was set into action whereby he'd be murdered inside the hospital, which is apparently what did take place. Apparently, recommendations are being made to look into SEIU connections as far as Seth Rich is concerned. Apparently, investigating SEIU connections will uncover even more revelations regarding this murder of Seth Rich. And I believe we have Major James back with us. Major James, are you there? Okay, we're still working on Major James. He's attempting to make contact. We'll let you know when he gets back to us. He's in and out. So I'm moving forward to this Manchester hoax business because I strongly believe it's part of the false narrative that is being spun in order to give pretext for this rising police state that we now see armed soldiers in UK streets. Major James, are you back with us? Are you able to communicate? No, he keeps connecting and dropping out. But as we are shown, we see increasingly escalated presences of armed militia in the streets of the UK, on trains and so forth. All this in response to what I recognize as no less of a staged hoax, a complete grand psyop involving pyrotechnics, crisis actors, and no murder victims whatsoever. I see the faces of some of the exact same crisis actors appearing out of the footage that I've seen so far. I see that as of late, the several of the photos of the kids apparently missing that they claim are none other than photos of a murder victim in one case from the year 2012, and in another, the photo of a child very much alive and well in her home state of Australia, which she has not left at any time recent. Comes to this complete surprise of her mother, as reported in the New Zealand Herald. All of a sudden, my daughter's photo showed up in this alleged massacre in Manchester as being missing. And no, that's not correct. That's my daughter, and she's alive and well with me in Australia and has been here the whole time. So why are you showing her photo as being listed as one of the missing kids in Manchester? Doesn't really make sense, folks. Unless you subscribe to the idea that this is a psyop. It's part of psychological operations. This is a staged event, a hoax created to appear real on the screen as viewed on the television by the masses, but 100% completely fake, just like Orlando, just like the Boston quote unquote bombing, the Boston Marathon, Sandy Hook, which I call Sandy Hoax. And going even further back, I mean, I could have an argument for staged elements of Columbine, um, Virginia Tech. So many of these others are controlled psychological operations that are rehearsed and made to appear real. And the reporting on them delivers it as if it is real, but it is 100% fake. And I refer people to see the film Wag the Dog for our little Hollywood version of predictive programming, our little indoctrination into this mindset. Because it is being very craftily used against us, folks. And most recently in this Manchester business. And it is being sold to us all the way, even by Fox. And this is where I draw the line with Fox, because, you know, these are the people allowing folks like Hannity and Tucker to report to us about the real dangers of vaccine toxicity by having RFK Jr. on, and then bringing on, you know, the discussion of the Seth Rich murder investigation. But at the same time, they are the same purveyors of this filth, this nonsense, that this Manchester hoax is somehow ISIS driven, that ISIS is real in any way, because we know that ISIS is not. We know that ISIS is a creation of the CIA and Mossad, and the United States and UK fully funded the creation of ISIS. We've seen photographs. There's a CNN photograph posted on their website, which clearly claims that their image is from Muslim extremists, and it's this image of this ISIS soldier. But you zoom in and you look at the tattoo on his collar, right in his neck. It's a Jewish Star of David, as they call it. Okay, so let's talk about who ISIS really is. Okay, I've heard many argue that ISIS stands no less than for Israeli Secret Intelligence Service, and it seems to work for me in that regard, because everything that I've been able to uncover points in that direction. This is all Mossad. So this whole, and again, in saying that, I really just want to make it clear that my whole take on that is they pretty much give MI6 their marching orders along with RCIA. So any of these staged psyops are, sure, they've got elements of the CIA, MI6 involvement, local intel, groups whatsoever, but Mossad's given them their marching orders. They're telling them what to do, and they're conveying orders that were handed down from B'nai B'rith, and B'nai B'rith is the top of the Masonic order, telling everybody what to do. The Jewish mob, folks. B'nai B'rith. They give the Queen, the Pope, everyone, King and Queen of Spain, you got it. Everyone, on down, trilaterals, Bilderbergs, you got them. They hand out marching orders. Everyone else says yes. That's where it comes from, folks. Don't let anyone tell you any different. And that includes the Jesuits, the Templars, all of them. I want to refer people again to Jim Fetzer's website, because he's been a prolific writer on this subject of psyop hoaxes. And it's important for everyone to have every book that he's ever written. I certainly have a library of his collected on my wall, and I'm proud to own every one of them. I look forward to the book he's probably going to do on this Manchester business, but and I don't get anything out of promoting him, folks. I just think he's a good writer, and he's a great way for people to learn about what I'm talking about. And that's Moonrock Books, and go there, check it out, or not. I don't really care. But also understand that this investigation is going to continue with or without your awareness. And to that effect, I have a couple things to say regarding truth. And I want to remind people that Arnold Schopenhauer said it best. All truth goes through three phases. First, it is ridiculed. Second, it is violently opposed. And finally, it is accepted as self-evident. Truth waits patiently as long as it takes to be discovered. It does not care how long. Truth doesn't care what you think. It doesn't care if you like it or not. It has no agenda other than to just exist. Truth really can be ugly. It often is. It's way stranger than fiction most of the time. And it's often hidden from you in most clever ways you never thought imaginable. Let's talk about that for a second, shall we? Remember, I mentioned a book by Jim Fetzer. I listed through them. One of them was called, And I Suppose We Never Went to the Moon Either. So maybe you've heard, casual discussion, joking about, we never went to the moon. Maybe you saw the Mexican avocado commercial during the Super Bowl where they're all standing around and their eyes wide shut, kind of cloaks, and they're like, they found the secret. And then the one guy goes like, like the one that we never went to the moon? That we faked the moon landing? And he's like, no, the other secret. But in your face, folks, they're hiding it in plain sight. Yeah, no, it's true. We never went to the moon. That whole charade, all of those Apollo missions, they were all directed by Stanley Kubrick, shot on a Hollywood soundstage. Now, if you can get beyond the what of this whole thing, you will begin asking yourself, why? And the why is the hardest part, in my humble opinion, when you start getting into this whole discussion of why would they go to such a great length to lie about something that should be so easy to wait, no, they can't. So it opens up a whole can of worms, basically. But the good part is it leads in all ways to the proof, the absolute proof of the existence of God, my folks. And I know there are going to be some of you in the listening crowd cringing at my words and saying, you don't even know what you're talking about. Well, again, I have done my homework. And for me, I have verified that this is what is true. And I have done so using the scientific method, exhibiting 100% repeatable results in the field as predicted, observing peer-reviewed results. Anyone can do this for themselves. The point is most do not. And simply because they do not, they choose to take a position and in defiance entrench themselves in denial over this position. And that's a very unhealthy place to be, folks. And it's indicative of a form of denial most of us have but don't even recognize, called normalcy bias. And I've said it before and I'll say it again now. normalcy bias for most of us is just because something has been the same way a long time doesn't mean it's going to remain that way. That's the simplest way of putting it. I cannot express how important it is for me to convey my message to others of just not trusting what you see on the television or hear or read in the newspapers, but to connect with your own world, connect with your own environment, observe the world around you, draw your own conclusions, do your own homework. The answers are there. And I believe this is why we're racing to the finish line in so much of a way. I think there's a tipping point coming, and the rate of awareness that's rising by way of the technology given social media, channel networks, and so forth, is hastening the pace with which our opposition ratchets forth its agenda. So the faster we become aware, the faster they ratchet in. And I strongly believe that we're approaching critical mass pretty darn soon here, folks. I'm not exactly sure how to define it, but it's been something that I've been suspicious of and keeping my eye on for a very long time. And I do think it is of biblical proportion. I think it has been foreseen in prophecy, and I think it is spoken of in the book of Revelation. I think we are all following a very biblical timetable here, folks. I think the Antichrist is very much a part of it. If you don't like what I have to say, then, good for you. But I may be fortunate enough to say, yes, do we have Major Burdock back?
Yes, I'm in the studio now.
Gosh, thank you so much for saving me from rambling, because I was running out of things to say.
No, Lord,
What happened?
What were you rambling about?
Oh, Lord only knows. Welcome back to the show.
It's called throttling, Alex. So they throttle internet connection. Basically, I can understand people maximizing their profits. Companies need to do that, but when ISPs start throttling people simply because of the behavior that they're using, because they have different analytics now, that leads to a huge number of things. And I'm not going to say that the reason I was cut off is because of what we were talking about. I don't know that. But I can say that we did not burn through a gig of data in our conversation. So,
sure.
Yeah. But nonetheless, it's good to be back.
Well, I'm very, very pleased that you're back with us. And basically, I just went off on a little bit of a tangent. I talked about Manchester. I talked about how much of a hoax I think it is. And I really believe that people need to just sort of disengage from the media and return to their own environment and draw their own conclusions, use the scientific method, do their own homework. Be their own research scientist,
I mean, are you saying that nobody died there?
I'm pretty much convinced that I can say that at this point. I think, again, Manchester is another one of these psychological warfare hoaxes involving crisis actors and staged pyrotechnics.
But I mean, let's just say that somebody accidentally died from a staged pyrotechnic. Wouldn't that be kind of a bad thing to say about the family of the person that died, just as a result, because somebody had to set off something. Somebody set off something that went boom.
Yes, indeed. Somebody set off something that went boom. I'm saying it was a Mossad-related agent of some sort. I'm saying it did not kill anyone, and I'm saying those people that are being claimed to be missing right now are not. So far, 2 have shown up. One as a murder vic of someone died in 012, and another of a girl who's alive and well with her family in Australia and has never left the continent.
Well, in the aftermath of something like that, people cross names or whatnot, but you had quite a few people actually die there. You're saying they didn't die?
Yeah, I'm not buying it. I'm not.
Okay, all right. I think we should, like DJ that back to Seth Rich. We'll
Yeah.
get into
Show me the
false
bodies.
flag.
Show me the coroner's report.
I'm sure.
Let's get into Seth Rich mode on this. Yeah.
All right. As long as you're not showing up at their funerals asking questions, I'll be okay with you asking questions. I mean, that's just don't do it at their funerals,
Well,
okay?
It wouldn't be the first time, and this is something that I've been talking about. Is that my friend Jim Fetzer has been writing so many books about this, and it all started with his first book, Nobody Died at Sandy Hook. And the follow-up was Nobody Died in Boston Either. And then a follow-up, I Suppose We Never Went to the Moon Either. And then his most recent book, Orlando to Dallas and Beyond. These are all psyops in a series of psyops, and they've involved many of the exact same crisis actors in all of them. Even most recently, Manchester, we have seen yet another familiar face show herself, in this time in peroxided blonde, but she's 100% recognizable. She's a hired gun. She's an actress pretending to be grieving and nothing less. So, yeah, I smell a rat. I think it's all a hoax. I think it's all there to just instill the police state, get us all into a state of fear. Now we have this ISIS threat against the entire West. They're telling us on the news tonight, right? Who invented ISIS? Who paid for ISIS? Wait, wasn't it us? Yeah, our CIA and Mossad, they created ISIS. They are ISIS. ISIS stands for Israeli Secret Intelligence Service and nothing more.
All right. Well, let me. Well, Orlando. That like all 50 people there, not dead.
Correct. No one died.
Let's switch over to Seth Rich then. let's go there. Because somebody somebody had to die. Somewhere.
Again, moonrockbooks.com. Moonrockbooks.com. That's all I need to say about that subject.
Wow. Orlando Moonlock. Okay. All right.
I'm so not kidding, dude. So.
I leave you for 10 minutes and this is what happens.
You can't take me anywhere.
All right. So, yeah, the Pizzagate currency, its currency, is definitely involved in Seth Rich's murder, simply from the fact that you got people at the FBI who don't have their laptop. Where is his laptop, by the way? I mean, where is it?
I have it. It's right here.
Oh, okay. So it does exist.
Yes, but you can only have it for $1 million.
Okay. But really, that's where it's at. I mean, if you want to figure out if the guy was murdered, you would think in this day and age that the first thing that you would go to figure out if it wasn't, a botched robbery. The guy, nothing was touched on nothing was stolen on the guy. He was assassinated on the street.
Yeah.
In an extremely safe neighborhood where there was nothing like that going on. You were saying you don't think so because you think Seth Ridge he's still alive?
No. I don't think he was robbed. I don't think there was a robbery of any kind. Nothing was taken.
Okay. Yeah, I want to make sure that wasn't a false flag.
That was a mob hit. No, it was a mob hit. Oh,
that's a Hillary. That's a Hillary hit right there. I mean, it's got. Yeah. So, And you've got Wasserman Schultz. I don't know. I guess I'm a day ahead of you guys, but the she's outright threatening the chief of police for DC Metro, saying that there will be consequences. I mean, that's absolute Clinton-esque. I mean, she was groomed and trained and loved and warped by the Clintons. And these types of open threats, they're not even veiled. There will be consequences. For a disgraced DNC leader to say that to...
Yeah, Chuck Schumer is big on this language, too.
Yeah.
We may have lost...
well, and Bill Clinton's best language was, how are your grandchildren? How are your children? How is your family doing? I mean, that's something that the mob asks people, especially if you're under investigation, you board a plane unexpected in Phoenix, Arizona, and you just walk up and say, hi, how are your kids? By the way, that's a direct threat. So Wasserman Schultz is doing it. She's doing it openly. She did it day before yesterday. And craziness, absolute craziness. This entire mindset is not going to stave off. And they're doubling down because they have no other choice. They realize that if they back off, if they don't use everything that they've got on everybody right now, and I'm talking about Pizzagate information, they're going to go to prison. So everybody is being threatened right now, including people like Bill O'Reilly and Sean Hannity. And
absolutely.
It runs all the way through. So it's a full court press with all the intelligence that they've ever gathered. Everything that the Clintons have ever done to make money is to sell state secrets, to sell our uranium, to sell anything they can possibly get their hands on that's valuable, they will sell, including the Lincoln bedroom. That's how sociopathic these people are.
Yeah. Yeah. And this Pizzagate stuff is real, folks, and you don't really understand it until it's going to be in the news, and it'll be over at that point. But we're not really sure in what shape or form. But this is coming to a head, and it's inevitable in one form or another how this plays out. And one possible scenario that people that I've talked to have entertained is one where enough heat comes upon Hillary that she begins turning state's evidence in order to save herself. Because honestly, they can't really just bury her under a mountain somewhere and make her disappear unless they really make her disappear. And that's the other alternative that people I was talking to seem to entertain as more plausible than anything. Your thoughts on that, Major James?
I think that she's got a bailout plan. She did. It's in Qatar. That's where all the money is. There's over $1 billion in Qatar, and that's where they're going to be comfortable. I mean, they're going to have to live in a desert. In the meantime, she's walking through the forest, and she's heading some sort of resist movement. And she's got Obama, her lackey. It's interesting that she is controlling Obama at this point. The former president of the United States is running around Germany saying, we cannot have in this world a world with walls. And he's speaking, and I don't know if you saw the photographs of him next to Merkel. You could barely see the photographs because they were almost impossible to take because of this massive wall surrounding him while he's talking about how bad these walls are supposed to be. Absolute insanity. It is, it's butthurt money. It's money to protect everybody that made hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars during the Obama years, during the Clinton years, off of raping the trust of the American people.
Here, here. Very well said. I'm so happy you were able to come on the show tonight, Major James. I know how difficult it is for you fighting the African Congo rainforest monkeys and so forth.
Well,
We have about another 10 minutes left. Do you have any other words of wisdom you can impart to our viewers, our listeners, and so forth?
the advice.
Well, I don't know, just things we haven't talked about. Do you have any
Yeah, actually,
topics on your mind that we didn't get to?
Oh, there were quite a few really interesting things. First of all, this is one thing that I'd like to say. I want to thank the people of the great state of Montana. Montana is where my mother was born, and I've spent a great deal of time there. My brother lives there, and so I feel I've done a lot of fly fishing there, and that is, to me, the heart of America. So
Okay.
to have somebody who was elected to the state of representative as a state representative who body slammed somebody, a reporter. I'm not sure if you saw the news, but I just want to say thank you.
Oh yeah, I saw it.
Of Montana for introducing the term body slamming into political commentary. I had a fun couple of days writing about that, and it's been amazing. Thank you, Montana, and thank you for all the folks in Montana who will elect somebody who's going to grab a reporter who bursts into their office and body slam them.
And break their glasses.
Oh, and he broke their glasses. So, yes. The guy was under arrest, and while he was, well, not while he was elected, but I don't know if there was bail. It was a misdemeanor charge, but I just think it's wonderful for the people in Montana to see through the tactics that people will go to absolutely shameless tactics, and you will get body slammed. So, and lose at the same time, and your glasses will be broken and hopefully not paid for. So, thank you, Montana.
A never dull moment from the state of Montana. So I'm curious, just kind of returning back to the Seth Rich thing. Did you pick up at all on what I was saying earlier about the possibility of more coming out of any SEIU investigation? Any connections there?
I think it was in an elevator at the time, but
okay.
Any investigation has to be investigated, and of course that's what everybody wants, is to investigate. I mean, Maxine Waters is investigating why her microphone got cut off. She's got an investigation. Everybody, it's the hip new thing to have an investigation.
Of course, you're not really cool unless you're being investigated.
Yeah, that's or initiating investigation. You're really super trendy if you're doing that. So if everything's mired in so many investigations, and well, what's the point? The problem is that some things do really need to be investigated. For example, where is the effing laptop? Okay, where is it? Okay, that is something that anybody in their right mind would want to know in a murder investigation, especially when the things that are surrounding it are a little bit circumspect. And the other thing, too, is I'm really curious about the family's behavior on this, because they're
Yeah.
going from one side to the other end and being completely misquoted. So I'm seeing interviews with the family saying, yeah, we want to know the truth. We want to know everything. We've got the investigator. And the investigator who went on to Fox News that Sean Hannity interviewed has not been fired. This guy is still investigating. So what is the big deal with that? I mean, you would think if the family was so upset with Sean Hannity, and that's the reason that he got booted and is taking a vacation now, that they would have fired the investigator because he's the guy feeding them that information. But yet he is still on the payroll, from what I understand. So all of this is very, very curious to me. Seth Rich, from pretty much, I would say about 6 hours after it happened, and we realized who he was, he's just like Pizzagate. He will never, ever go away. Ever. And
His name was Seth Rich. His name was Seth Rich.
I don't know if you want to tie that into Fight Club, but I got that one. But I'm telling you, it's not going to go away. It won't, and we'll make sure it doesn't. We will make sure it doesn't.
And that's the beauty of these channel networks. And I really have come to admire all that's going on. It's again, not always easy to digest. But it does seem to be the last bastion for free exchange of actual information without filtering. So my hat's off to all those involved. And you, Major James, for being the reporter on scene in the way that you are, and the Goldwater staff. You folks are doing a magnificent job, in my humble opinion. And I look forward to more breaking stories as they come toward us. So we've got about 5 or 6 minutes left. I just kind of wanted to touch on current issues here in our locality. Here we are in California, and we're still fighting these vaccine related issues. Do you see any help for us? Because I know you've been here. I see that basically our Jesuit Governor Brown is really kind of marching things forward on his agenda. I'm wondering, is there going to be any sign of hope for us in fighting him? Do you have anything you can say to that?
Nothing good. No, I mean not in
so.
the state. It's the state of California is pretty much inoculated with stupidity in the highest levels of government, right up to the governor and the senators. And I mean, for Christ's sakes, look, I mean, you got Maxine, you're host of Maxine Waters and Nancy Pelosi. How bad can it? I mean, that's insanity right there. So those people are entrenched.
They're funding this guy. They're funding this guy, Senator Richard Pan, who's authoring all this just draconian medical kidnap. Basically, is what they're enabling. And there's a group called medicalkidnap.org, for those who don't know, who are kind of focusing in on this issue, where they're basically allowing, if you don't vaccinate your kid, they're sending CPS in to kidnap them.
The idea of government people coming in and forcing a syringe into, I mean, I don't have kids, but I can just imagine how that's just, I mean, that's Brave New World. That's 1984. That is something that should not exist in the United States of America. The government should not be allowed to come in and pop a syringe into your children.
I personally, that's why I say, I'll have a 45 if they bring that to my door, and we'll see who makes the bigger hole. Because it's exactly, My body is my sovereign property. You're not coming in unless I say it's okay. Um, and we should be that way with our children, folks. And they voted mandated vaccinations on children in Italy, apparently within the last day or so. Um, these things are coming down the pike, and here in California, they're testing it for the rest of the world with us because we're such stupid libtards here. And I can't say it in a nicer way, but it's true. Um, the socialistic aspect of this whole like communal, like let's be hippie kind of world out here has not done us any favors. Um, so I pray. I pray for the well-being, and I continue to work with these activist groups like LearnTheRisk.org and promoters of the film Vaxxed, who we just got into the Cannes Film Festival. It just played last night at Cannes, folks. For anybody interested, yeah, Vaxxed is the real deal. So Major James, we're wrapping up. We got about another minute left. Your final opportunity to plug the Goldwater and say goodnight.
Well, I would say that don't forget to have a little fun with all of this. I mean, it's all so terrible, especially when we start talking about Pizzagate and the implications of Pizzagate and what is happening as an influence in mainstream media. You have to have a sense of humor. You cannot be void of that. So if anything, I would urge people to come over the Goldwater as an alternative news source. It's thegoldwater.com because we have fun. This is, and that's the reason that we can't operate in the United States right now, is simply because we don't feel right doing it, especially in San Francisco, for Christ's sakes. We laugh every day. And it shows in the stories, and it shows, and our sources are citizen journalism and people that we trust and our analysis. So, yeah, if it's a good introduction to the channel networks, and feel free to talk to anybody if you need an introduction into 8chan. If you're just curious about it, talk to anybody at the Goldwater. We'd be happy to. Folks at Revolution Radio, we're brothers and sisters.
Well, thank you, Major James, so much for reporting in from the African Congo. My hat's off to all the folks at the Goldwater and all you lurkers on 8chan listening in. It's been a splendid evening bringing to you a discussion of current events. Until we meet again, this is Alex Peter signing off from San Francisco, bidding you a fair and safe weekend this Memorial Day weekend. Good night, everybody.